She was always happy, always playful, always singing, dancing. It was just all fun and games.
That's our little girl who we love. And that's also them children's mother. She is a victim of a vile creature.
Donna and Roy Inskip are not just mourning their daughter Ashleigh, but grappling with what they now know happened to her before her death.
When did you start worrying that things were not right in this relationship?
After she had the child.
Because she come up to me, she played as a tape recording. It was, you fat slut, you ugly slag. I didn't want to bend you, I didn't want any kids, you ugly fat bastard, and so forth.
Ashleigh, an aspiring singer, had met her former partner in 2017, falling pregnant with her second child. She had a history of mental health problems and some issues with alcohol, a vulnerability that was exploited, the relationship rapidly becoming abusive.
She went disassociated, quiet, started dressing in black and stuff. All beating her down, mentally beating her down until there was nothing left of her. A person who was so confident that she would have went on the telly and sang her heart out and wanted to be famous. And they took that all away from her.
Ashleigh would suffer violence as well as controlling and coercive behaviour. She'd struggled to pay her bills and was in significant rent arrears, with her partner taking money off her and refusing to pay it back. She disclosed to a housing officer that it was often easier to allow him to take the money because he became so angry and she was so frightened. He would also threaten to stop her seeing her children, weaponising them as a method of control. Ashleigh's suffering was compounded further still by sustained abusive messaging. Channel 4 News has seen a number of those messages. In them, he writes,
"You horrible little slag. Fat, horrible tramp what you are. You slag. You're an absolute disgrace. Effing die. You shouldn't have kids, you."
I don't even know how a person could do that. You can understand people have hard times in their lives and have arguments and stuff like that, but you never tell a woman to take her own life.
It was after her death that Donna and Roy discovered the full extent of contact that Ashleigh had had with police and social services. In January 2021, she was recorded as high risk during a domestic abuse assessment by Northumbria Police. A month later, her by now former partner was issued with a non-molestation order, one he would break at least 8 times.
He used to threaten her with the children that basically, you'll never see your kids again, so why don't you just do all a favour and kill yourself, you effing this and effing that.
Ashleigh's mental health deteriorated and she was sectioned by June 2021. But even then, in hospital, the messages didn't stop. He called her a disgrace, told her she'd lost her kids, that she should stay in there and do us all a favour. He told her again that she should kill herself. Police were called, but Ashleigh said she wouldn't support a prosecution, saying she feared it would make the situation worse.
I was mortified. I was absolutely disgusted how somebody can send messages to somebody that's trying to get better, and obviously telling her to take her own life while she's trying to get better is, I don't know how anybody could say that or do that to anybody. It's absolutely disgusting.
Just 8 days after she was discharged from hospital at the end of June 2021, Ashleigh took her own life. She was only 25.
I found her, walked into the kitchen, shouting, "Ashleigh, Ashleigh, it's me, it's your dad, Ashleigh." I screamed and I screamed, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Will you let him get you?
An inquest into the mother of two's death found that the relationship she endured was one of control and abuse in which her vulnerability was exploited. Ultimately, the coroner concluded the domestic abuse that she endured significantly contributed to the acute deterioration in mental health that she was ultimately unable to overcome. Her death was described as a tragedy for her entire family, but especially for those who will now grow up without their loving mother in their lives. 3 weeks after Ashleigh's death, her former partner, who we can't name for legal reasons, moved away from the area, taking her 2 young children with him. He continues to have custody of them and has never faced any police action.
I'm trying to see my grandkids, and them are part of my daughter, and he's took that away as well.
You walk around some days, you smile for 5 minutes and you feel guilty for it. You feel happy for 5 minutes and you think, and you feel guilty. You feel, why should I be smiling? She's not here. And then you get angry, you get frustrated. She was let down by a system that was there to protect her.
It's devastating, it's heartbreaking. He shouldn't have been allowed to do it. He shouldn't be allowed to get away with what he's done. It just makes you angry. Because my little girl would still be here if it wasn't for what he's done to her. The evidence was there. It still is there.
In response to Channel 4 News, Ashleigh's former partner said the relationship was toxic from both sides, but said, "I do take responsibility for texts I did send after our relationship broke down." He added it was his view that the inquest into Ms Inskip's death tried its best to blame him, insisting that no hands were ever put on her and blaming her deteriorating mental health on alcohol abuse. Because of her many interactions with police and social services, Ashleigh's death triggered a multi-agency review. We've seen its findings and they're damning. Her ex-partner, despite breaching that non-molestation order multiple times, was never sanctioned. It said that police and social services treated each incident in isolation rather than building a fuller picture of the coercive effect his behaviour was having on her mental health. And it also discovered limited understanding of how abusers can use children to coerce and control their victims.
Why do you want Ashleigh's story to be out there?
Because it needs to be stopped. The whole lot needs to be stopped. The whole lot of the system is broken, that bad. It needs to be changed in a way to help and to understand perpetrators.
Channel 4 News has extensively reported on the issue of domestic abuse suicide and the sheer numbers of women taking their own lives. The number of domestic abuse victims dying by suicide has overtaken those dying at the hands of their abusive partner, according to figures from the National Police Chiefs Council. Assistant Commissioner Louisa Rolfe is the domestic abuse lead.
Too many people are either taking their life or losing their life as a result of domestic abuse, and we need to do more. But actually, I want to prevent those deaths. I want to ensure that we do what we can to prevent, perpetrators being able to so successfully isolate and coerce and control a victim to the point that they feel they have nowhere to turn.
We've been speaking to the family of Ashleigh Inskip, who took her own life. Her ex-partner breached non-molestation orders against her multiple times. Without consequences. He sent multiple abusive messages to her while she was on a psychiatric unit, encouraging her to take her own life. She did that within days of leaving the unit. Her parents feel like he's got away with this.
They must feel like that. That's so awful, isn't it? And I think we know there's more to do in terms of ensure that the right response to breaches of protective orders. It makes me sad that perpetrators will often target a victim who may have a pre-existing vulnerability to then, further undermine their credibility with those around them.
Northumbria Police told Channel 4 News that their thoughts were with Ashleigh's loved ones and learnings and recommendations from the safeguarding review would be taken forward, adding that there was now greater awareness nationally about proceeding with domestic abuse prosecutions without the need for a victim's involvement. The local authority which supported Ashleigh said while it was a complex situation and support was in place, there were areas that could have been improved. The hospital where she was treated said it had conducted a serious incident investigation to look at lessons learned and to improve care.
Do you even attempt to look forward?
We don't. You can't take it away. You cannot take it away. Once it's happened, that emptiness is there. That person who used to sing every Christmas, make you happy, always make you feel welcome. And done as a shopping buddy.
I want justice for my daughter. Nobody listened to her, so I hope they listen to us.
And again, as we said earlier, there is a range of support available at channel4.com/support. Well, for years in opposition, Jess Phillips campaigned with many others for better data on the number of women who take their own lives after suffering domestic abuse. Now she's the minister responsible for tackling violence against women and girls, and her job is to make sure understanding the scale of the problem translates into real action. I spoke to her earlier and asked first for her reaction to Ashleigh Inskip's story.
Every individual is a tragedy that you sort of take into your heart. I'm afraid to say that the data shows us that, in fact, the suicide at the hands of and caused by domestic abuse is starting in the data to outstrip the number of people whose lives are taken by homicide.
The report from the NPCC today calls for a better multi-agency approach to prevent these deaths. I suspect in opposition you would have torn your hair out at the idea that we need a multi-agency approach, but the very idea that the basics still appear not to be done, police not speaking to the NHS, not speaking to social workers, information about these women's lives and the threat posed to them not being collated, not being acted on. I mean, are you disappointed that that is still not being done in enough cases?
It's not just in opposition that I would be tearing my hair out. You know, like you on reading that, I am aghast. I have heard that for 20 years. I suspect I'll hear it again in 20 years' time unless we truly act. So, yes, you're absolutely right to be flabbergasted by that. And so what I have to do as a government minister and what the government has to do as part of its mission to halve violence against women and girls is look at every single one of those entry points, whether it's social work, whether it's your GP, whether it's your A&E, whether it's the police service, whether it's your kid's school, whatever it is, wherever your entry point is, there has to be actions taken to prevent. Now, I'm not idealistic enough to think that overnight I could change this and make everything brilliant and rosy, but we have to do the work on the entry points and learn lessons rather than just saying we've learnt lessons.
But families we have been speaking to say that it is too often a postcode lottery in terms of how the police respond immediately, but also how coroners are responding to these cases. How do you, now you are in government, how do you change that?
So, look, there's a very real problem in our country with the fact that there are 43 police forces and coronial courts mapping across those police forces as well. We have invested in a new centre, which is like terrorism has, a policing centre where intelligence and practice is learnt from the centre. We are investing in a new violence against women and girls and public protection centre to share learning and monitor progress against the domestic homicide reviews that are into suicides, for example, to make sure that police forces are learning these from a central point.
For so many of those bereaved families, what they want is to see a perpetrator in court.
Look, I absolutely want to see the perpetrators of domestic abuse held to account, whether somebody takes their lives or loses their life or not. And so absolutely I want to see justice, and that is why there is a homicide review being undertaken by the Law Commission that includes the cases of manslaughter in cases of suicide as part of its remit. And I very much much look forward to see what the recommendations of that are. And so, you know, I don't really want it to be families fighting an 8-year campaign, taking civil action. I want to ensure that those systems are in place and that they are the same across all police force areas. That isn't going to change overnight, regardless of the massive force of my personality.
And just very briefly, I mean, what would success, it's difficult to talk about success in this terrible area, but what would success look like?
Success to me looks like a proper prevention strategy to prevent violence against women and girls happening in the first place, and also prevent the repeat of those most prolific and perpetrators.
Jess Phillips, thank you very much for talking to us.